Everybody, welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and welcome to another Girls Frontline 2 Exilium video. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons you should be excited to play the game. Now, most people aren't going to need a reason beyond it's a turn-based tactical game with waifus in it, but we're going to give you 5 different reasons. So, number 1. I am going to be comparing this game to Sword of Convallaria, as that is my primary game right now, and so it's also a tactical game. Not as many gacha games come out are grid-based tactics games. There are, of course, them, but that is the most recent example, so I'm going to use that as comparison. So, very first one, and it might seem shallow, but I actually think it's a big deal, is total pre-registrations are at 4.3 million. Let's refresh. Let's see if it goes up. I don't know if it's live updating. Okay, well, it's at 4.3 million. This was under 4 million. I think it was only a little bit over 3 million like a week ago. So it is getting quite a few more as it comes up to launch. But Sword of Convallaria, they peaked at about, right before launch, at about 2 million pre-registrations. So this is roughly twice as many. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't know if it got how much above 2 million Sword of Convallaria got. Now, I'll admit, that does not speak to the quality of the game at all necessarily. However, I do think it is important when you're playing a game, people just kind of know it, right? When you're playing a game that's popular, it's more fun than if you're playing a game that's really niche. The more popular a game is, the more people are playing it, the more other people want to play it, because you want your achievements in the game will feel like achievements you could show off to a lot of people. If you become the #1 ranked ladder player in a game with 15 people, you're like, okay, no one really cares. But if there's millions of people playing it, millions of downloads, and there's just a huge community, everything you do in that game that's impressive feels more, right? People just like being in larger communities. It becomes, and so this is basically, I would say that this is a good thing. There's going to be a lot of people. You're going to be able to share your victories and get a lot of advice. When there's a lot of people, suddenly people get very good at the game. More people running the same stages means they're going to be more optimized. It'll become easier probably for free-to-play players because there'll be a lot of people experimenting with all kinds of units. So overall, the pre-registrations being so high means that this game might have twice as many players at launch. Who knows? Is there ways to cheat this? Yes, but anything you could say, like, well, 2 million of those are going to be people registering twice on multiple devices. Yeah, but Sword of Convallaria would have had the same thing, right? So even if this is really only 2 million, that would make the other one only 1 million, you know? So I think this is actually a pretty big deal. The fact that this game is going to be popular, one, is good as a content creator, but it's also good as a player. So the other thing I want to talk about, number 2, is that this is, it's a turn-based mode that I've talked about. This is also a great resource. I'm going to put a link to this down below. It's basically a little bit of a beginner's guide, but it has characters tier lists. I was using this before as well. But it's the amount of modes that are actually in the game at launch, which is kind of crazy. This has, at first it has a story campaign, right? That, of course, that's going to be kind of fun, but you don't usually want to do it a bunch of times, but it'll be a good way to mark your progress through the game. However, it also has supply missions. Again, this is kind of basic, right? Sword of Convallaria, this is Fool's Journey. This is the tarot thing, it's like, okay, these are the different resources. You'll need one of these to rank up, character experience, one of these to rank up skills, one of these to level up weapons, one of these to level up or obtain weapons or attachments, one of them, these are going to be the basic resources you're going to need to get. You're going to run all of these every single day, probably, or something like that. So then we get to the combat simulations. This category features various challenges for commanders to clear. And if you take a look at this stuff, look how many different types of content there are here. So we're just going to go through them here. The Neural Survey, unlocked at Commander level 15, features various chapters which can be cleared to obtain materials needed to unlock new neutral helix nodes. I don't even know what that is, but you do this, you unlock new things. Boss fights, there are going to be weekly raid boss challenges split between standard and crossroad. Standard battle features 8 tier levels, resetting weekly, so weekly tower challenge. Clearing the challenge gives you these marks, and you get harder stuff, and you get to do it again. Harder modes of it as well. Endgame boss battle mode. Exercise, unlocked at Commander level 30. You get offline PvP. So this is also something that I wanted to include. This is basically number 2.5, is that it has PvP at launch. And it looks like it's fully supported all the time. You don't need to go into these specific queues at these specific times. However, once you get to rank level 30, And you get to Adept 5, you will unlock the Military Simulation, which is an online PvP mode, combat exercise reset weekly. So I don't know if you're going to have to go through the AI every single time in order to get to the point where you can do the online PvP mode, but they have an offline and an online PvP. Offline is obviously you're going against the AI, and this seems to be live PvP, which would be insane. Maybe I'm misreading it, but that's what it seems to be to me. A weekly tower base mode, which is different from this weekly one. Obtain various rewards. You've got drills, bi-weekly challenge mode, which features up to 10 stages. So like the point is, look at all these modes. This is all at launch. And so are they going to add a bunch more modes later? I don't know, probably not, but this is a lot of different things to do over the week. So you're just not going to get bored. And like, if you don't have time to do it all, you could find your favorite content. Maybe you just want to do PvP. Maybe you hate PvP and you just want to do the tower mode or whatever. Right? There's just a lot of stuff to keep you busy, to keep having a good time. Lots of stages every week to use your characters in, which is one of the hardest things about sort of Convallaria right now, is that there's just no stages to use my characters in. Really? I'm like, for what are they doing? I have to wait until like once a month for 4 days. There'll be like the challenge mode stages that are really hard that I could use all my characters in. Otherwise, I could just like auto everything, or it's just like, and even the really hard stages aren't super fun. But point is, there's a lot here. Number 3 is it's going to be on Steam. So there is going to be a PC client, but also it being on Steam is actually a big deal. This is becoming more standard, but it means like you don't need to download a launcher, although this actually might download a launcher, so I don't want to speak that, but it's just nice and easy. You know, you can play it on your phone. You can then just come home and you can turn off, you know, log off on your phone or turn it off and then play here on your PC and play it like a real like console experience, right? You know, playing it like you're playing an XCOM basically with mouse and keyboard. And honestly, like this might seem small, but I've played gacha games without PC versions, and I'm sure most of you guys have. I cannot express to you how much better it is as a content creator to be able to just have this on the computer. The game is more fun. It's easier to play. It's easier to record content, easier to stream. And it's truly just like an awesome experience, right? Because it's usually optimized for this kind of stuff anyway. So it like usually runs really well. Not having to figure out all these fucking BlueStacks things like, oh, I download BlueStacks 10, but it doesn't work with this. I got to use the 64-bit Pi version. And then I got to install this add-on to the thing to make it run, and it still crashes all the time. And now they did a new update and now it crashes, and like that kind of shit sucks, bro. So the fact that this will just be boom here, I think is actually huge, and I am very excited to be able to play this on Steam. Another one that is both a positive and a negative, depending on how you look at it, is, and I think this is a positive for players for the most part, Girls Frontline 2. Basically, they had a question with a representative that they are planning to keep I could zoom in here, but basically they are going to maintain a 1-year gap from the Chinese version, right? They are not going to try to catch us up, which I think is overall very good. So it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes when a game comes out and they try to catch you up, it could be good because you get a lot of content in a short amount of time. You get to just play a bunch of content every week. There's a new event. But then whenever they slow down a little bit, it feels like so slow. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? There's nothing to do, bro. But if they're going to just maintain this 1-year gap, then this means players will basically know characters that are coming out, right? I don't personally love this. I would prefer if it didn't. However, for a lot of players, this is a really big thing, especially free to play. You are going to know what characters you're going to want to save your resources for, which characters you're going to want to pull. We're going to know what kind of content is coming out and when. Basically, we'll be able to see, all right, in 3 months, we get this type of content. And this character that would have been like considered low tier when she came out. Maybe she's low tier in the game, but she's really good in this content. Suddenly, now you can plan teams around future stuff. And honestly, the 1-year gap just means we kind of always get a good insight into what's coming down the line. Again, I prefer more surprise and stuff like this, so this is more of a double-edged sword. However, I did want to include this, as I know a lot of people really like it when a game has this style of system. So the final one here is it's got a better pity system than Sword of Convallaria. I don't know if you guys remember the drama when Sword of Convallaria came out, but everyone's like, I don't understand the pity system. How does this work? How does that work? It's so unnecessarily confusing. And although when you read the pity system in Sword of Convallaria, it sounds more confusing than it is, you've got the very simple one here. You've got Girls Frontline 2 has the Genshin Impact pity system. 80th pull is a guaranteed SSR. 1 to 57, you have normal rates. 58 plus, you get a stacking increase. So you're unlikely to get to 80 pulls to get to the 100%, because you're probably at like 90% at pull 79, 80% at, or something like that. You're going to have a higher percent every roll over 58. But once you get to 80, you hit hard pity. And you hit SSR drop. But basically, you can look here. This is where you start. Are you pulling for a limited time unit? Or you are pulling for a limited time unit? Yeah. Are you guaranteed? The answer is no. If you're pulling, you're not guaranteed. So the SSR unit that you get when you hit a legendary unit will either be featured or you'll get the 50-50. If you did not get the featured unit, your next is the guaranteed. And so you go back to 0 and then you go back to start. And this time you're guaranteed and you get the character unit. And then you get your pity goes back to 0. You go back to start. Or, this is basically, did you get the featured unit? Yes. So you've basically, after 80 summons, you're guaranteed to get an SSR. That SSR has a 50-50 chance to be the featured unit. If it is not the featured unit, the next time you get an SSR will be guaranteed to be that featured unit. Your guarantee will carry over to the next time limited banner. Your pity will carry over to the banner. So if you get 79 pulls, you don't have an SSR, and you miss the 50-50, and then the character you're pulling for disappears, a new character comes in, your single pull will guarantee that character, right? So it's a very simple pity system. However, it is very good. Genshin and Honkai and stuff basically have the best pity systems. They just kind of made it perfect, right? Because now the downside is this game is probably not as free-to-play friendly. It depends. Sword of Convallaria has a worse pity when it comes to collecting all the characters, but once you get a character, you're able to farm them up to max copies. This game will be easier to obtain characters. However, it is unlikely you're ever going to be able to farm up their, I don't know, because I haven't played the game, but you're unlikely to be able to farm their resources up to the max rank, right? Purely off of just playing them in the game. That'd be nice. But basically, that is the final thing. It's got a great pity system that I really enjoy. And those are just a couple reasons why I think you should be looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to the game primarily because of gameplay. However, it having a PC launch, it having a very simple pity system to understand. The 50-50 system is basically, I think, like the new meta when it comes to what's considered a good pity in a gacha game. PvP at launch is going to be so fun. I'm very excited to actually be able to jump into PvP and not need to wait for a 4-hour queue once every 6 months, like in Sword of Convallaria, and not have to like go friends listing. Like I want an in-game system with support and resources where I can just queue up, go up against a random person, and destroy them with my superior intellect. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for Platypus's Purplatypus, and I will see you with more Girls Frontline 2 in the future. Bye.
Find my way. Girls Frontline 2. It's when I unite in a world of strategy. I'm ready to fight.